Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session on demystifying AI for the next generation GCC. Over the next hour, we'll explore how life sciences GCCs have adopted automation and intelligent systems over time, from early processes efficiency efforts to today's shifts towards agentic AI-driven automation. We'll explore how these capabilities not only streamlining operations, but also transforming research, regulatory functions, and patient engagement. The session will also look ahead in the future where agentic AI promises to make GCCs true strategic partners. So I'd like to start by introducing our moderator for the session today, Sudeep Krishna. Sudeep is a co-founder and president of Healthark Insights. He brings over 20 years of experience in strategy consulting, most recently serving as managing director and strategic partner at Deloitte. He has led numerous global engagements across biopharma, medtech sectors, including both J&J Medical and J&J Pharma in Southeast Asia and US, India. Next, I'd like to introduce John Dawber, a corporate VP and managing director at Novo Nordisk. With over 25 years of global experience across sales, marketing, market access, public affairs, John has held senior roles spanning Europe, Korea, Japan, Southeast Asia, and India. He also serves as India GCC leader, member of NASSCOM GCC Council, and with a proven track record in building high-performing teams and delivering commercial impact worldwide. Next, I'll pleased to introduce Mohit Dhingra, Managing Director of BMS and Vice President, Head of Business Insights and Technology. Mohit has been with BMS since 2023 and has played a pivotal role in launching the Hyderabad Center in Feb 2024. He is responsible for setting the strategic direction for the center and transforming it into a preferred destination for top-tier talent. With over 24 years of leadership experience, he has driven digital transformation across industries and geographies and has built multiple teams and sites across US and India. Prior to BMS, Mohit has held leadership roles at Bank of America, Prudential, Informatica, and JP Morgan Chase. Uh, we have Nilay Shastri, a general manager at Roche Services and Solutions India. With 20 years' experience in biologics and medical devices, he has held global initiatives at the intersection of healthcare and technology, including AI/ML, analytics, and forecasting. At Roche, Nilay is focused on building high-performing teams, expanding capabilities, and advancing global analytics and technology center of excellence. Lastly, we have Mr. Mahesh Natarajan, Senior Director Research and Development at Thermo Scientific India. With over 24 years of experience across life sciences, analytical instruments, consumer industrial products, Mahesh has led innovation in product design, value engineering, and new product development. A certified reliability practitioner and holder of 7 US patents, he is passionate about building high performing teams and advancing customer centric innovation. So, over to Sudeep, if you can continue with the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Divya. I think thanks for that introduction, and a huge welcome to all the panelists on this panel discussion, and also a lot of the members of the audience. Thank you for taking time and spending that time with us here today. That count continues to grow, and as we've discussed in the past, we have on this session in the audience folks from India and outside of India as well. So really looking forward to an insightful conversation. We keep talking a lot about GCCs. It's a favorite topic, if you will. India has seen a lot of growth over the last 5-6 years, but the GCC story started far before that period. Then the GCCs and then their GCCs, right? So we are specifically talking about the life sciences world, and all of us here are, representing the healthcare and life sciences industry. And, sometimes I feel that we have sort of a natural affinity towards talking about value rather than numbers, right? Typically, what we've noticed is that in the life sciences space, most GCCs usually start their journey by taking the more complex parts of the life sciences value chain and trying to build teams around that to support some of these activities globally, right? And that in many ways will now see its own sets of opportunities and a few challenges with the onset of AI. And we were having a conversation while prepping for this panel discussion, and this constant conversation about AI, the question is that what does AI mean? It means different things for different people, right? Like I said, it has a series of opportunities assigned to it. It'll also challenge us to think differently, and in many cases, that was what drove the choice of the topic for the discussion today, which is demystifying AI and what it means for the next generation of GCCs. With that, Mohit, if I would love to start with you. I know we've had this discussion about the topic, but what do we mean by demystifying AI, right? So why don't I pull you into a dialogue around that, and then we'll sort of go and have a series of other conversations.
Sure. Firstly, thanks for having me. And just a quick check. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
So I would give a very simple definition at a textbook level. So AI is basically having machines do something that the humans can do, and eventually get to human intelligence, right? Which is what everybody's aspiring for, which is AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. Operate like how we operate, think like how we think, and eventually the aspiration, and who knows, can happen in 5 to 10 years, is get to ASI, which is super intelligence, which is machine doing something more than the human can think and aspire for. And everybody's seen Terminator and grew up seeing sci-fi movies, and we've seen machines go rogue, and that can happen, and who knows what ASI will bring in, right? But at a fundamental level, in my view, AI has really got three components in it, right? And artificial intelligence as a construct is pretty old, right? Goes back to the 1960s and 70s. And if you've learned computer science, all of us had a course called neural networks and fuzzy logic and artificial intelligence. And if you remember that, the only reason why we couldn't do something at that time was because the compute was very expensive, right? We could still write algorithms, but we could not run those algorithms because the compute power was not there. The math was there, the science was there, the computing power wasn't there. So if you really look at AI, I break it into three major components. It's the compute, it's the algorithms, and it's the data, right? Now, given the compute has become very inexpensive, right? Thanks to all the chip makers and the companies that have come in, we've heard of CPUs, we've heard of GPUs, we've heard of TPUs, and we can keep on hearing more and more, and to the point that everybody started to design and build their own different kind of machines, right? So the compute became cheaper, cloud came in, made it more democratic, made it much more easier. The algorithms always existed, or the intelligence to write those algorithms always existed. Now we can test it very quickly with the compute power. So that's your second component of AI, right, which is the algo. The third component is data, right? And really what has happened over the last few years, because the compute has become so cheap and expensive, the algos sophistication has come in, and we can write better algorithms. We can now go behind any data structure. And that's really what is happening in the industry, right? We said, guys, what if we had a machine, or we had so much computing power that the machine can go and learn everything that is there in the World Wide Web? I don't know if you guys have seen this movie called Fifth Element. It's a Bruce Willis movie, and there's this person who lands from another universe, and she literally goes through this multiple videos and learns everything about humans and language and so on and so forth. It's really where that is going to eventually, right? So if you give all this data in the world to somebody, to a machine, and say, go keep learning on your own and now act like a human, is really what AI has come down to. And that's where AGI and ASI eventually goes to. So to demystify AI, it's a technology. It is no different. It brings in compute power, it brings in data, and it brings in algorithm. And the fusion of it is what makes this a very big accelerator and a secret sauce that can give you 10x, 50x, 100x acceleration. And that's really what the industry is aspiring to do. It can learn very fast. It can go behind vast data sets. But also the challenge that exists, which I'm sure we'll cover, it's also going to learn what is out there. If bad is out there, it's going to learn bad. If good is out there, it's going to learn good. And if bad and good and other things are out there, it is going to get confused and not know what to do. And that's where a little bit of the hallucination comes in. But that's really at a fundamental level what AI means. And let me just stop at that, and then go from there.
I think that was super helpful, Mohit. And, quick follow-on question. I mean, we agree that as we solve for both the compute part and the algorithm part, sometimes what will drive average AI solution or differentiate an average AI solution from a good AI solution is the access that it has to data.
Correct.
We all know that healthcare data, by its very nature, is restrictive in terms of what can be shared and what can't be shared. Do you think that could be a bit of a challenge in terms of adoption of AI in the healthcare and life sciences space when you compare that with some of the other industries like consumer or financial services?
So, of course, the complexity or the permutation combination in the life sciences industry is just exponentially multiplied. And I'll give you a simple example, right? There are probably trillions of cells in our body, right? And at the end of the day, if you take any cell at an atomic level, as it displays from an amino acid perspective, is quadrillions of data, because atoms multiplied into cells, multiplier of 8 and so can lead into quadrillions, right? Now, if you take quadrillions, I don't know if anybody, the audience will not even know how many zeros are there in a quadrillion, but that's a number issue, right? But the permutation combinations of that in your body from a cellular level perspective is what makes this complicated. Now, the good part is, if you look at the deep mind, right, where we, now figure out what the protein structure is, right, which was very difficult to solve for, and people spend 15, 20 years to really, figure out what the protein structure could be, and people have done PhDs to just demystify one of those. With the deep mind moment that has come out, we're now getting faster in trying to solve this, human biology problem. And then you put the chemistry to it, and so on and so forth. So I think it's getting better. I think that at a fundamental level, it's not the proprietary information that is sitting in the companies. It's also the, how we are understanding the human gene and how it works, how they interact, and they are actually sending signals to each other, right? Whether we like, that's really what is happening in our body, right? So I think figuring that out and putting computation to figure that out is the breakthrough opportunity. And that's really what everybody is aspiring for. And that's what the industry is banking on. And that's where we're going to go. And it is getting more and more sophisticated, right? Where things are now coming at a very targeted cellular level, right? You could do chemos and you could have good and bad cells go away. And you can now in the future get to target it at a cell level, do chemo, and you can do radiation going forward, right? Which is very difficult when you compare to a few years back. So the science is going to evolve, the compute is going to support it, and that's where the algos and all the AI pieces will make it a very good combination as a breakthrough.
Yep, makes sense. John, let me loop you into this into this conversation. I specifically wanted to talk about the second part of this topic, which is the next gen GCCs, right? And typically in any GCC's growth journey, there's setting it up, and then it has a certain growth curve which is a little flat in the initial days. And then suddenly, as the adoption levels and the level of interaction that goes up between the India-based teams and the global teams, you see an exponential growth curve that the GCC hits. And then it grows up to a certain point, and then it pauses for a little while. And then you see like another. So it's like a growth kind of a journey, right? And more often than not, what happens is that a lot of this journey happens through growth of headcount. And historically or traditionally, that's the way we've always measured growth. Now, given everything that we're seeing with AI, there's an opportunity for us to break this linearity of growth, right? There's the connection of growth with headcount. And I think you have been at the forefront of some of the thinking in that regard, and would love to know your thoughts as to how do you see GCCs evolve in the future? Is it, of course, headcount is still there. I don't think that goes away, but I think is there a larger conversation that's now going on in corporate boardrooms around the impact that the GCC generates that's not tied to headcount growth?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you very much for the invitation to participate today. Yeah, you're absolutely right. In our organization, there's about a quarter of our headcount is dedicated to R&D. So to all the things that Mohit was talking about, it's about 1,000 people or so that are working in R&D. But that 1,000 has more than doubled just in the last 4 years or so. So headcount still plays a part for sure. And for us, we're a little company or a large company based in Little Denmark. So for us, when it came to hiring great skills at scale, then India is an obvious place to do it, where you need brains, you need experience, you need skills, you need qualifications. Then the headcount play is very much clear to us. But it moves over the last year or so into not just headcount, but heads that count. And what I mean by that is that we're hiring more highly qualified people, more skilled people in all domains than we've ever done before. And no longer is it a kind of parent-child relationship with the headquarters setting the tasks and then us implementing the tasks or doing the tasks. In many cases, it's the other way around. So that the global decision making and the hypothesizing that Mohit was talking about is happening in the center, in our case in Bangalore. So that changes not only the sort of linearity of how we're hiring, but the kind of folks that we really want to embrace and bring in and train and develop. Curious minds, challenging minds, people who think beyond just the task and say, could we do it this way? Could we do it that way? Hypothesizing how we can utilize AI, and this is a case in point, to make our processes faster, more efficient, learning from data, as Mohit mentioned, in ways that we would have never been able to do before. As one of our units is taking historic clinical trial data, which is 30 years old, and it's sitting in database files. In some cases, it's sitting in PDF flat files, all stuff that we had 20 years ago. And until we were able to read it through machine learning and through AI, it was dead data. Now we're able to take that information and bring new hypotheses for drug discovery, for a more efficient clinical trial operation, for faster to market. And I guess one thing that's common for all of us is then to get great treatments to patients faster than we've ever done before. So utilizing AI in the center to be able to serve patients and serve all our purposes better.
I think that's very well said, John, and especially the areas that Novo operates in and the way diabetes affects multiple parts of the body, right? And the comorbidities associated with that. I think the storehouse of data, which I'm assuming is like more than 50 years old, that you have access to, that now you're able to actually analyze much deeper, leveraging AI as a tool to do that.
Exactly. And these guys would tell you, even so with one clinical trial in pharma, it might be 10,000 patients. And those patients are all seeing the investigator probably every 2 weeks and having 10 tests done. So if the trial goes for 5 years, it's billions of data points, which can then be interpolated and interpreted by a machine to be able to make hypotheses for the next clinical trial. And we'd have never been able to do that before, even if we'd had 5,000 staff. So the ability to utilize the machine to make us better and faster and more impactful is really valuable.
Really exciting. Mahesh, what's interesting is this whole impact journey that we're talking about. I think Thermo's been living that for a long time, right? The amount of work that you seem to do in the space of value engineering, for example, the amount of work that you do in terms of supporting global R&D, and we are talking not just about clinical trials and regulatory. We are actually talking about equipment related R&D, which is this amazing confluence of engineering and life sciences that sort of comes together. Uh, how do you measure impact, right? And how do you push yourself to do more every year? Because every time I've spoken to you, you don't talk headcount ever, right? You only talk about impact. And I would like to sort of loop you into this conversation with this focus on impact and growth as opposed to traditional conversations about headcount.
Thank you, Sudeep, for having me here, and happy to be with the rest of the folks here. So for us, like you said, we had been focused on impact as a clear area of attention over headcount, primarily coming from a place that headcount play, the cost related play is given. Where it matters to the business end of the day is if we are able to walk our journey towards contributing to the top line, walking our journey towards contributing to the bottom line, understanding the customer requirements, and then working towards what we take pride in, what we call as customer allegiance. Those are things that truly matters for the business, and making that as a clear goal in the beginning was a very difficult one to go in, right? Because it's very natural to look at a shared service team and say that, hey, we want to measure you for different aspects of tactical measures that comes in, which could be on-time delivery, first pass yield, whatever it is, right? Changing the mindset to say that, we are going to measure ourselves towards the net output that matters to the business unit is a journey that it has by itself. And we had been always focused on it so we can align with the BU and have a conversation around how we can truly facilitate it. Being in India, and we are based out of Hyderabad and Bangalore and many other cities, but the development centers are here. One of the big advantages that we have is we have practically many customers around, right? So if we are developing something, it allows us to soundboard with each other. We are also in a geography where it allows us to vertically integrate. Say, if Mohit was talking about the compute evolution that's happening, many of the chip manufacturing companies have their design centers somewhere near us. So, when we are trying to innovate something, it allows us to move that much more faster when we end up integrating with the ecosystem in a way. I don't think we have completely reached the end state. It's a journey for us. So that's primarily what is allowing us to focus on saying what we should focus on, and headcount as a conversation or a narrative never resonated for us, but the later part has been something which we found a lot of use in as we go around.
Any examples of any interesting AI related case studies that you have been involved in, you as in Thermo has been involved in, that you're okay sharing with the audience today, Mahesh?
So, like everyone in the panel, right? All of us are exploring AI, in our own areas, I assume. And for us as well, we have it across the value chain. There are different aspects that goes in. For us, the journey on AI has been a bit, our adoption of AI for the value impact that we create has been a very organic journey in a way. The org that I work for, we are very strong believer of continuous improvement. That journey in the past has been facilitated with automation, RPA, and things to that order. That continues to still be relevant. And to John's point, the data set that used to exist before is now getting to a point where we are able to make sense out of it. If not, there are tons of documents, data that is available everywhere. Now with the compute, with the progression of all the technologies catching up and converging, we are able to interpret, make results out of it, right? So as we go through this journey, what we have found is our first phase of starting AI adoption was like, kid in the candy store kinds, right? You go in, you try different things, and everything looks to be great when you start. But then when you go reason it out, you find that our finding was that not everything was accurate. There was a lot of things between, there is an answer that you get for sure, but is the answer that is the right answer? When you go in, you find that there is much more efforts that is to be spent into categorizing it. So, we had different ways of, getting to embrace AI and work towards it. Uh, what kind of worked for us in this journey was when we realized it's not about we going sporadically trying 30 different things where AI could be put to use. It's more around we channelizing ourselves to telling what do we want through the AI to come out. When we came out and told, okay, productivity is something which everyone would talk about, inward focused, how we bring it in. How do we pair this along with what our customers would benefit with? And that realization took us some time. But once when we came into it and started working on, we now have few use cases that are extremely, I think, useful for us right now, and we think they are scalable as well. I'll take one of those and talk about it, right? From a perspective of all the product development goes through, tons of due diligence to making sure that our equipments, instruments, and solutions that we are getting into the market does what it is supposed to do. There are different requirements that comes in from a compliance perspective. There are different requirements that comes in from a quality regulatory perspective, and our own internal standards that we need to meet and thrive against or reaching it. So, historically, the way of doing some of these activities is you go in and you do a manual work of reading through the 5 different functions, what they did, try to integrate it, and then overlap it with the different global standards, try to process it, create the different checks and balances, ensure we are meeting it.
Yeah.
Now, as we use AI in the different parts of this value chain, we are finding that this can be an enabler to get the first 30 to 70% of work done. We are also learning how to hallucinate less. We are learning how to make sure that we are not having too much of human in the loop, and the human in the loop is not as easy, right? When you are to deal with 30 things that interconnects, how you go and process those things. So we are kind of coming against addressing those challenges, but I would say we are already seeing significant value with the total roll throughput of what comes out in the value chain. We are seeing some significant benefit come through. I'll close with the last one, as in saying that for us, as we evolved into a place of telling, it's not about doing a proof of concept.
Yeah.
Within the 90-day cycle, the proof of concept gets done, but within a calendar year, we should be able to go and tell what we wanted to do. Either we did it or we could not do it. It's perfectly fine to say we could not do it, but take to your finished state where the impact comes back and we can demonstrate that the impact is there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up, because when you're talking about trial and error, I was smiling because of that dreaded word called proof of concept. I think there's this, I call it the graveyard of POCs, which is the AI world. I mean, for every POC that magically works, there are 10 that don't, right? So I think there's a little, and as a consulting firm, we have been involved in a lot of that, wherein sometimes you look at a POC that's not scaled up into production. We sort of look at ourselves and say that, hey, what did we do that was not right, or what did we do wrong? So it's interesting. Hopefully, we'll see a lot more POCs go into production going forward. Nilay, one of the things that I just want to bring this topic all back together is that when we talk about AI, we talk about next gen GCCs, we talk about growth. One of the big aspects of that is leadership and change management, right? And let's be honest, I mean, all of us think we know what AI is. I think to a large extent we do. But we also don't know how it's going to evolve, right? If it continues on a incremental growth curve from here, or if it goes into some sort of an exponential growth curve and we have artificial general intelligence, super intelligence, so on and so forth. As leaders, are we ready for that change? And second is, are we ready to empower our teams to sort of evolve to a point where they work with AI based solutions as a collaborator, as opposed to looking at them suspiciously as elements that could potentially threaten them going forward.
First of all, thanks for having me here. And I promise I'll get back to your question. But something that Mohit mentioned earlier, it took me to my prior experience, and I'll sorry, connect it to what you are asking. But as Mohit was talking about the compute, I remember like a decade back or something, we were on SAS system. We would do the analytics on that, but the system, the compute power was so slow. Like you run your algorithm, and it will take like 24 hours to churn the result out. And I remember like 2 3 years after we were like switched to AWS, and I'm not trying to promote any company here, just sharing experience. Is I remember I was flying to, I think, Boston for some presentation, and in the flight I realized there was something I had not completed. I had like a patchy Wi-Fi from the flight, and just using AWS, I was able to run some analysis which I could not even imagine running by any other means. So we have come a long way, and we are continuing to evolve. And in that regard, now let me come to your question about how things are evolving, and how can next gen be prepared for it. Um, as you asked Mahesh a question on the use cases, let me demonstrate that answer by sharing a use case here. So we were, this is like late last year or mid last year, we were working on some business question which was related to the health insurance as it exists in the US. It's pretty complex. You need to exactly know what the health insurers have as their policies to cover your product, and you want to know whether it is favorable or aligned to the label approval you have from the FDA or not. So it has been a manual process. I see bunch of doctors here in the chat. So we have doctors who would read through these documents and then assess whether this payer policies or health insurance policies are favorable to us or not. So it was a pretty manual process. Every policy read through would be like 50 pages or so of document. It will take us about say 1 hour for each person to go through it. And then there was this business question, can we automate that using AI? So we embarked ourselves on that journey, and it was proof of concept. But I think that proof of concept went well. We were able to get to pretty high level of accuracy, which was good enough. But here comes the interesting part: is by the time we finished that proof of concept, I mean, thinking about deployment, that is when the agentic AI comes into play. So we are doing a lot of prompt engineering prior, and now you have agentic AI. So you can actually the way we did the project versus what we can do now, and this is like not even within a span of 1 year we are talking about. Things evolved, shifted, and changed significantly. So as I sit today, and as we are working on various different use cases for future, the same question weighs in my mind: which are the ones where we are already on the right path, or which are the ones that are going to throw a curveball at us and shift our thinking in a different direction. But regardless of that, I think, how do we prepare ourselves for that world? If I think of me personally, like 20 25 years back, for me the tool was going to Excel and running the analysis. We all know like that is such a old world that it doesn't even exist anymore. So so the talent we see, the individuals who are working in these areas, they are getting trained on the latest technology. They are coming up with a lot of new ideas, or being exposed to a lot of new ideas. And this is where I go back to what John mentioned: is that curiosity, like what are you trying to solve for, how can you solve for it, and consistently asking this question, that for you to go from point A to point B in today's evolving world with AI, what are the solutions that you are going to bring to the table, and quite importantly, what is the impact it is going to make? because ultimately the impact is going to drive all the future decisions on how we grow along the journey as a GCC with the organization. And so, as I was reading through flavor of some of the questions you were asking, in there lies how say the old world again. I would say, and it's not all that old world, but you have a corporate office, and then you have hubs such as all of we have here, um, as against say getting certain business questions and you solving for it. Where we are in our journey currently is co-creating solutions, and the way we have reached to that point is more of a natural evolution, because the kind of talent that we have been able to find and attract here, they are proactively thinking about, hey, I'm doing this task now, how can I make a product out of it? And that thought of creating products in an accelerated manner and solving those questions that otherwise were taking forever to be addressed is what is actually driving the next generation growth for us.
Okay, no, I think that's super helpful, and I'll just borrow from where you ended, Nilay, and probably put you folks on a spot here. We have a lot of students who are a part of the audience, and there is this narrative right now saying that if you're a student who's entering the workforce at this point in time, there are not a lot of new job opportunities for those students because of the predominance of usage of AI at the lower end of a typical, sort of corporate structure, right? If you look at any sort of corporate pyramid, usually there's a perception, and I'll sort of defer to all of you on whether that perception is true or not, that you don't need as many new or fresh hires as you used to in the past, right? So, as leaders who influence the hiring policies of your respective organizations, any comments, any thoughts? I'll leave it open to any of you folks who'd want to step in and talk about that.
Actually, I can turn the question around its head and give one kind of opposite extreme example here. Um, so we are again working on use case. We create digital contents, and then there is a research, whole set of research that goes into the digital content. Like when you display that image on your laptop, which are the areas where someone is most likely to go and take a look at? Like what is that catchy place? And a lot of research goes into figuring out what that part is. Now, we have been using a solution that is out of the box solution in the past. Um, Recently, we had some intern who was converted into a full time team member. He took that question on himself to figure out the answer and started looking at ways by which this could be done. And within 6 months, he actually found a very good solution to it, which is now going to be in production for us. No, so now, as I think about this individual, what was that he brought to the table? Why he was able to make this happen? Is first he was or is in tune with what the technology landscape looks like. He understands the business questions, what the domain expertise that one need to have in that respective area, and is just curious. Like, what if I do it this way? What if I do that way? And then that willingness to go and talk to your partners, your seniors, other team members to pitch the ideas and figuring out solutions. So as long as I would say the new batch is coming in and thinking and orienting their way of thinking in this direction, I think there is still a lot for them to gain through this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, Sudeep, I can cover a couple of points adding to what Nilay said, right? So, and I get this question a lot is, hey, what skills should I be learning? What should I be doing, right? And my philosophy to anybody just comes down to two basic things. If you can do these two basic things, you'll survive anywhere in the world, right? And those two basic things are really learn to learn, right? Which means you have to keep learning and there is no end to it. And we have to keep learning no matter what your age is. So learn to learn is very important. And the second is adapt to change, right? Now, the reason I'll say this is, and this is where the new folks who are coming into the workforce, you have the best opportunity of a level playing field. Gone are the days where you had to compete with a person who was 20 years Java and 15 years application architecture and 7 years Python. All that is gone, right? Because what has happened? We've leveled the playing field with AI coming in. You can take a piece of code, convert it from HTML to React. You can convert it from React to Python. You don't need to know programming languages. If you're a smart, so what are the basic skills that you really need? At the end, you need good problem solving skills. You need to drive to a business outcome, to what Nilay was saying. You need to understand what is the problem, what are you solving for, and are you coming up with the best solution to solve for it. So for the folks who are on the call, and if you're from engineering and other backgrounds, right, till you do problem solving, till you do debugging well, till you are going behind a business outcome, till you are open to learning, right, your opportunities are better than the folks who are in the workforce today. Because a person who is there for 5 to 10 years, what are the two things they are not doing well? In my view, they are fixed thinking. They are not adapting to change because, hey, I'm in Hyderabad, I can't move to Bangalore because I have my family. I'm in Bangalore, I can't move to Mumbai. I am a Python guy, I don't want to learn some new language. So they're not adapting to change, which you don't have a problem with, right? Second, hey, if I learn some other language which is the need of the hour, I'm going to, diminish my branding of being this expert, and I'm not going to. So if you really take that, none of that is kind of, it's a blank slate for a person who is just coming out of college, right? And if you have to compete with anybody else, which one would you want to draw on a blank canvas and draw whatever you want to draw, or you want to draw on a filled up canvas and find some corner and say this is where you're going to go and do something, right? I would any day go with a blank canvas, right? And I think what a new grad or new person coming into the workforce should be thinking about is just go learn everything, build the network, build the connection, just be a lifelong learner, explore. This is your time. People get too caught up as, hey, I'm in Azure, I'm not in GCP, and I'm in GCP, I'm not in AWS. I'm like, guys, how does it matter? You just be happy you're learning some cloud technology. You just be happy you're learning a programming language. And these things just pan out over a period of time. So I think till those fundamental things, everybody's got this. I need to be a full stack engineer. Everybody's got, I need to be a front end guy. I need to do front end development. I don't want to do back end. I'm like, guys, you're coming in, learn everything, because all of this is going to become a level and a neutralized and normalized playing field. Is my advice to everybody who's coming into that workforce. And your chances are much more brighter, in my view, than people who are in the 3 to 7 years. They should be more concerned because that's where their inertia is, these two things that I mentioned about.
I think it's well said. It seems counterintuitive when you listen to this, but it's so true actually. Any other thoughts?
I completely agree with both the perspectives and Mohit, the way he brought out, right? As in, learn to learn continuously and adapt to change. That's a very important thing to learn. And for all the folks who come into the entry level, the the fact remains that the traditional entry level jobs have shrunk big time, right? Everything that we talk about what automation and AI does, that typically goes and takes away the typical career path that used to exist. The new world is starting to emerge and it's in the early stage. And for students who are coming out of school right now, I think it's probably getting retuned to adapting to what has changed in the world as they come in, right? There are plenty of roles that is there and continues to emerge in terms of, say, the AI tool testing. If we are looking at any area of data analysis that we want to get, or uh, basic automation activities to be done. Tactically, we can go and pick multiple things. Now, is that what people are used to when they come out of college? Not at all. And service industry used to be the largest hiring fraternity in the industry. Now they are not going to hire for the same things that they used to see with the written test and probably having a conversation to see if you can talk with each other or whatever it is. It's going to be asking for, do you understand to create a end outcome? Can you come and demonstrate it? And I think that evolution is something which will facilitate for the newer jobs that's coming in.
Sudeep, I'm just gonna maybe wrap this discussion up and on. I think it's a two-way street. You hinted on this in your question. These guys have all very beautifully explained what people coming into the workplace should be thinking about, and it's very, very motivating and encouraging. But we've got to change too. In our organization we got 450 people managers. I bet if I went to 445 of them and said, would you prefer to hire a new graduate or somebody who's got 3 to 5 years work experience, they would default to the latter, and that's wrong. So we've got to force this change in our organizations big time, and I personally, I don't think we're doing it well enough. So I think there is a two-way street. To add to what the other guys have said, and this is going to sound a bit boring and old-fashioned, but don't forget your soft skills. In our place with 17 functions across a GCC, I'm looking for people who can collaborate, who can work in teams, who can work in cross-functional teams, who can drive things forward from behind as well as the front. And all that stuff is really, really important in an organization like ours.
Yeah, I think all great points. And John, thank you for bringing that piece up as well, because I think there's sort of efforts that are required from both sides, right? So obviously there's change that we need to do as organizations. But if I were to summarize, I think we're looking for keep learning, keep adapting, be curious, and don't be shy. Don't be shy to reach out, and don't be shy to collaborate, which in today's generation, honestly, I don't see that level of shyness. I remember when I was growing up, I was a little more diffident than I see some of the folks today, and it's a pleasant experience to see that people challenging and people pushing back. I was also going through the questions. I think we have sort of answering them as we go, but there are these series of questions which I would classify as the whole under a broad bucket of human AI conflict, right? There is what I know, which is the body of knowledge that I have. There's a body of medicine that exists, and then there is something that the algorithm throws up, which is something that goes against the traditional way of doing things, and goes against everything that body of knowledge seems to represent. So in situations like those, how do we make those adjustments, right? So in some cases, and there's enough situations where generative AI platforms have not gotten it right. They're evolving and they're learning, and the point that Mohit alluded to initially is that they're almost only as good as the data that they have access to. So how do you bring back that human touch, wherein you are able to look at what is being generated, you look at instinctively what you know, and instinctively the knowledge that you bring to the table, and to what extent can you trust what's being generated, and to what extent do you push back against what an AI solution is going to do. And I understand that it's a nuanced set of series of answers that probably we need to look at, which is there's no one size fits all and as to how you do that. But I'm sure in our respective lives we are beginning to see a bit of that, right? So any thoughts on how you have faced any of those situations where there's AI opinions which conflict with traditional knowledge opinions, and how do we go about solving that going forward?
So I can start first. I think you'll always, at the end of the day, we call it human in the loop or human making the decision till we get to ASI, right?
Yeah.
So that piece is, nobody's taking that away from us. Also, let's not forget that we are the ones who are going to AI for advice or interaction. And if you don't like the advice, you can choose not to take it. It's okay, right? Of course, over a period of time, as you build the trust and you keep getting outputs, sometimes you're going to get some wrong answers that can take you the wrong path, wrong way too, right? But I would emphasize two parts, right? That as a human, we are still making that decision. I think we are not at that point where it's just going to happen on its own, right? And second, is you have the power to choose or decide whether you want it or not. And now there's enough information that's going out that certain reports machines can or AI can read better than experienced doctors, right? There's nothing wrong. I think the only anybody who will replace a doctor is an AI assisted doctor. Anybody who's going to replace a engineer is an AI assisted engineer, right? So I think the question is leverage it to your advantage. Pick. We all do that in our life, right? With whatever devices or whatever tech that we use, that makes us better. It's augmentation at the end of the day. And if you're not convinced, and if your gut says no, then it's no. It's okay, right? I would say that's at the basic, simplest of level you want to look at it, right? I'm not going to get into the complicated math and the compute and the models and all of it, because at the end, whether we like it or not, and as a leader, I'm speaking, we make more gut decisions than we make more data decisions. Because firstly, we know data is a challenge, right? And this is something, I'm sorry if I'm just tangentially touching philosophically, right? All major decisions that I have made in my life, at least, have been on the fly by the gut. I did not look at 25 different data points. I don't think if you get married or if you had kids or if you buy a home, you don't look at these permutation combinations. Let me look at 100 data sets and these 15 combinations and see how this works. You'll never make a decision, right? So you on the fly. So I think it's the same thing. It's what we come down from an AI perspective, that you like something, you feel it, go for it. And if you don't, it's okay. Keep on researching it. There's nothing wrong in it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the use cases that we've discussed, and they exist in all of our companies, tend to be about utilizing hard data in a more efficient way, and that, I think, has got some real benefit. I kind of have still got a healthy skepticism about whether we can replace truly the doctor-patient relationship. We work in diabetes, and for the four of you that are facing me here, the four of you could have the same blood glucose reading. You could have slightly different lifestyles, and the algorithm would tell me to do the same thing for each of you, at least today. And whereas the human and the experience of the doctor might suggest that we would do something different. So I think, as Mohit says, that the AI can augment the doctor-patient interface. It can give perhaps the physician more choices or more evidence-based choices, but ultimately, I'm not sure at this point we're replacing that human instinct of experience. That's how I feel about it.
And thinking of physicians' interactions with the pharma companies such as us, here, say, we talk about next best action all the time. And this is where my head goes back to what Mohit was saying earlier, is that the next best action is going to recommend what kind of messaging could potentially resonate. Of course, it is based on 20, 30, or who knows, 50 to 100 data sets. So there is a lot that goes behind the scenes to come with that recommendation. But at the end of the day, the individual, the field team who is talking to the physician is still making a decision on whether that is the right message to deliver or it is something else. So they have assistants now, which they didn't. If you are new in the field, then it helps. But if you are already seasoned and tenured, then maybe you are making your own decisions. So these are other factors at play.
Yeah, I don't have much to add on top of what others were talking, and I think we are still in a point where human in the loop is essential, and the experience, I think, gains much more than what AI would bring it alone. As a consumer, maybe I would load my test results in Perplexity and look at it. I might look at, whatever the feed that goes in to get some idea. When I go to my GP and talk about it, he would be like, stop looking at all these things. Just.
But on that note, how many of you have put your symptoms in Chat GPT and explored what GPT was saying and compared that with what your physician is saying? I'm trying to be a little, we have a lot of physicians on this thing. I'm sure they were complaining about Google a few days ago. They'll complain about Chat GPT very soon.
If my GP is on the call, he would be like, okay, he would be talking now. But
Don't meet me again.
he's a
I
good
think if it
translation
helps,
later.
if it helps feel better to the physicians, I tried that several times, and every time I default back to the physicians.
Absolutely.
I have to say, being a technologist, in this particular example, I'm just scared to put in anything on the internet and try it, because every time it gives me this, hey, this is off, you got cancer, you're going to die, you're going to got this, and I'm like, guys, if I have to die, I'll die, right? So I trust my physician still. I'm the old traditional guy. They are the experts. You have to go to them. There is no other shortcut to it. Yes, the anxiety can kill you, so it's good to know what you're getting into before you meet the physician. But don't get into this internet medicine, in my view. Sorry, I'm not a physician by any profession or anything, but leave it to the experts. They're trained. The same thing is, as a computer science, engineer, trust the guys who know this, and that's how it should be. Anything that you do in life, right, is trust the expert. And yes, you can ask the right questions. You can ask what's in your mind, but don't go with these preconceived notions. It doesn't help. It just creates more stress and more anxiety. And I think there's enough in the world to go around that you want to go back to internet and add and find out there are 10 things that you didn't even know that exist, that you could have that. And I'm like, okay, guys, that's where I'm
You
leaving.
folks are going to be so
The
popular.
doctors are
You'll be the
sitting
most
on that
popular
light.
set of panelists for this conference. Look at the number of thumbs up and love signs you're getting. It's I've not seen that before. Look, we have 4 minutes left. I wanted to do a very quick poll. Mohit, you brought up AGI, artificial general intelligence, and artificial super intelligence. I think for the benefit of the audience, if very quickly, maybe 10, 15 seconds, if you can explain what each of these are, and then I'll start my poll.
Yeah. So I'll give two, one not so popular example and one probably a popular example, right? So I'm sure we all played, chess with the computer. We've done complex games that do not have a pattern to it, and those computers are winning. So that's AGI, right? ASI is where you say, hey, I want to solve world hunger, right? And you find out that world hunger, there's enough farming that we do that only can feed 50% of the population in the world, right? Now you come into this dilemma as an ASI. How do you solve this problem? Either you do more farming, or do you reduce the people to get to world hunger solving, right? There's both ways you can solve it, right? ASI is when you don't have a control on how that problem is going to get solved, and it's going to keep learning, and it's going to keep overriding you, and it's going to keep saying that, hey, your AGI, your IQ is only 140, I'm here at 190, I know better, you can't override me. If you're going to turn me off, I'm going to turn on myself. Today you can turn off a machine, right? And you can say, guys, you know what, it's too much information, I'm turning you off, I'm done. You can do that for AGI. For ASI, there is no reset button, right? Sorry, I'm giving you a very draconian, but that's what it will come down to. Now, take the good part to it, where it can solve problems that have not been solved for, but it'll choose to, based on what it has learned, to solve that problem, and we will not have a control how it goes about doing it. Is what eventually it'll get to.
Okay, so Terminator kind of a scenario.
Terminator kind of a scenario, but yeah, but with more different ways of doing it. Hopefully, much more guarded ways of doing it. And I think that's what the industry is trying to figure out: is do we get to that moment sooner, and what checks and balances we put before we get to it.
So let's do a very quick poll. How many years away are we from AGI and ASI? How many years or months away are we? AGI and ASI. Yeah, very.
AGI, 2 to 5 years.
Mhm.
Or sooner, depending on what comes in. I'm sure somebody's working at it in some lab, and it can be a breakthrough coming in very quick.
Yeah.
Anywhere between now and the next 2 to 3 years. ASI, I'm not a scientist, AI scientist, but I think it's still 7 to 10 years away, right? But the acceleration is so fast, guys. I'm still
Yeah.
catching up to the words that were introduced in January. on artificial intelligence, and every 3 months there's a new word that's coming in that I'm learning about because the industry is moving so fast. So who knows what comes, how soon it comes. But yeah, I think it's definitely out
So
there and it will benefit.
so 2 to 5 AGI and maybe 7 to 10 ASI is what you feel. Mohit, Nilay, how about you?
Uh, for me, actually, wearing my pharma hat back, where I struggle with predicting this timeline, because these are ongoing conversations, is the compliance part. Like, what are all the guardrails you are going to put in place to ensure you are compliant and you are not going or evolving in the wrong direction?
Yeah.
Compliance always plays a large role. And considering that role, again on the pharma side, it's really hard to predict how it would evolve on our side. But if you look at it in general, maybe I will just go with what Mohit was sharing here.
Okay. Okay. In general, I think we'll. I understand pharma is complex, but in general, how far away? John.
Yeah, same. I mean, I'll perhaps answer from a farmer perspective. I'm also a little bit more conservative. I think AGI 3 years kind of thing, yeah, no, I think more than a decade would be for super intelligence. Honestly, it could because I worry about the thing going
The
wrong.
implications of that, right? Yeah. No. Totally. Mahesh.
So I think the popular conversation seems to be in 3 and 10 years. I'm at a point where some of these things I don't predict at all because you really don't know what comes and surprises, right? To what Mohit was saying, we get surprised with so we talk about geometric progression. This is one place where you truly experience geometric progression
True.
to a point where you don't even catch up with what happened like several weeks, months ago. Something has changed so much. So to me, I think I'm not predicting much, but ASI I think is at least a decade out. You know, given all the checks and balances that needs to come through in place also.
Yeah. Good. So again, thank you for that. I know we geeked out a bit towards the end, but that was fun. Again, thank you so much for taking the time. I know all four of you have busy schedules, so it was lovely having all of you. And a huge thank you to our audience, not just for being here, but also engaging with us both in terms of questions and reactions and all that. So I'm hoping that this was a useful session for all of you, and we are hoping that we'll bring a lot of these kind of insightful conversations going forward. So thank you all. I think we'll
Okay, see you
before.
guys. Nice meeting
Thank
you all.
you.
Thanks, everyone. See you.
Yes.
Bye bye.